Hello, everybody. Good afternoon. Happy Saturday to all of you. We want to welcome you to this very important panel discussion. I want to thank you for joining us. We're going to be today, welcome to this important and timely discussion on the theme corporate punishment in Liberian schools. Is it discipline or disgrace? I'm truly honored to be here with such a dynamic group of people. All of us are from different backgrounds, but we have one thing in common. We're from Liberia. Today, we're going to look at the educational system and discipline in Liberia and what it means for some of the things that we've seen, some of it that we've gone through while we were in school, but specifically looking at the issue that has brought us to this topic today, which is that of what we saw from the Haywood Mission School with Reverend Bishop Leo Simpson. So, as we start this podcast, I'm here with three guests, and I will first start with the only female that's here right now to introduce herself and tell us a little bit about who she is, and then we'll go around. And of course, my name is Glendy Jane Jr. That is the most important thing I like to do, and that is to call my name. Welcome, everybody. Go ahead, Enid.
My name is Enid May Jones King. I have over 20 years of experience in association and nonprofit management. I currently serve as executive director for a healthcare association. I also sit on the board of a nonprofit for survivors of sexual and domestic violence. I am a mother, a wife, and a strong advocate for Black women and children.
Thank you and welcome. Sister, we'll go to you.
Oh, okay. Hello, everyone. My name is Cesar Goya. I am a lifelong educator. So I'm a long-time high school, secondary math teacher, currently director of mathematics and sciences, Minneapolis Public Schools.
Thank you, Cece. Welcome.
And of course, I'm Newman Walker. I'm a son of Buchanan and Grand Bassa County, born in Liberia. I'm also an entrepreneur. I'm the current CEO of the Walker Consulting and Logistics Group. I'm also a very strong advocate of youth and sports development. I'm also an advocate of educational reform in Liberia. I'm very honored to be a part of this panel. Of course, the topic at hand, discipline or disgrace. Hopefully we can look at this from a very different perspectives. But I'll leave that to you, Glennie, of course. I'm just grateful for the opportunity to be here, and I look forward to having a very fruitful, inspiring, and uplifting discussion. Thanks for the opportunity.
Thank you. And I'm so honored to have all of you from the various backgrounds you come from. But I can assume that this is an important topic for us to bring to the forefront, because this is something that has been stuck in our tradition and stuck in our upbringing, that we wanted to come and talk about it. Of course, we're coming from the backdrop that we, a few weeks ago, saw a post, a video, where the principal of Haywood Mission School, Bishop Leo Simpson, was seen cutting children's hair. We have subsequently asked a lot of questions. We talked to previous students, current students, even people who went to school with Bishop Simpson, who has said some of these things have been ingrown in the tradition. They've been there for, Liberian people would say, Charlie King time. It's been there. It's been that way. So I want to first look at the first question we want to touch on is, what is the historical and cultural significance of corporal punishment in Liberian schools, and do we even know how it evolved? We can start with Cece, and then we go to Enid May, and then Normani. Just give your perspective on where you think this came from.
I really don't know where this came from. And I don't think it is cultural by meaning that it's rooted in our culture, because I used to go to Fakan. I used to go to Slow. My grandparents were not beating us like that. So I don't know how this become a culture, because if you look at what happens in the schools and what happens traditionally in our villages, now I'm not talking about Monrovia or other places, before our parents started taking on jobs, but what happened in the villages is I went to school 1 year in Lofa when I broke my leg. You go to school, when you misbehave, that's where they beat you, they would 25 you under the flagpole. But when I go home to my grandparents and misbehave, the punishment was different. It wasn't corporal. It wasn't that rough. I still had to deal with a correction. They still had to correct me, but it wasn't the way it was done in school. So the way I was punished in school was different from the way I was punished when I went home. So I really don't understand how this is cultural, and I don't understand where it came from.
Okay. All right. Ineme. And I like, let me just say before we go to Ineme, I like that you kind of added your growing up in your school. So if all of us can add that piece there, so we get a background of, did we go through this? Where did it start from? Or if you have your witnesses and all of that?
You know, beating wasn't something my parents did. And to tell you the truth, other than maybe my brothers being grounded when they did something wrong, my parents, me and my sister, we got away with murder. You know, we were girls, and the last two girls, and my father had no interest in stemming or punishing his girls. My brothers got grounded, I'm sure. They got grounded, but it wasn't something that was done. And then I went to convent, and you know, that's another story, because being in a private school, the nuns will maybe crack the finger of the students, put you in the corner, but then again, they knew who to punish. You see, so all of that thing, certain group of people, they were afraid or revere their parents, so they didn't punish us. And then certain group of people, they had control over that, they knocked their finger or something like that, but no beating with ratting and all of that, no.
Yeah, I think for me, I went to several different schools. I started from Barnes Elementary, and then I went to St. Teresa's Convent. My father got a job in Grand Bassa County, so we moved to Bassa, and I went to Methodist School. And then when we returned to Monrovia, I went to Cathedral. And each of the schools, when I can remember Cathedral and Methodist School a little bit in Bassa, I would see some instructors who have the ratting, and they would beat students. Or if they would miss a question or whatever, they would punish them. Or if somebody made noise in the class, they would make them stand in the corner. They would make them pump tires. Those things we witness. Me personally, at home, I think the only form of discipline that I received was probably my mother yelling a lot, because I was my dad's favorite. So my mom would yell a lot. But anyway, she grew woman, so that's probably expected. Probably expected. But I think for me, the schools we went to, there may have been a difference in the trainings that we saw and the discipline that we saw. So, Nomini, tell us about what do you think, whether this is cultural, traditional, or this is just something that people just do?
So, I want to side with Cece a little bit, but from I will lean, a little bit, to a different perspective. So, if you look at traditional African society, and this is just based off some of the readings that I've done, we did institute some form of discipline, but it was within, communal. It wasn't meant to disgrace or disrespect. What happened was, when the colonizers came along, they decided to institute some form of corporal punishment as a way of subjugating and having the people obey their orders. So this went from them, as they spread, of course, Christianity and their religion. Uh, they imposed those things upon the people, and our people took those habits, and eventually it went into our schools, it went into our churches. Even if you look at the church, people use this Bible verse, uh, spare the rod and spoil the child. So they twist that and make that in a way that people feel that you know when children are disrespectful, in order, you can only talk to bring them back to where they need to be. You have to use the king. So in a nutshell, our traditional society, we did not have those types of enforcement. It was brought on by our colonial masters, and those habits or those areas of our life haven't been challenged. The whole idea of corporal punishment has been instituted in our schools for many, many years, for many, many decades.
Mhm.
And it hasn't been really challenged because people have grown comfortable with those actions.
All right. Do you think can we say, I mean, I know we have a diverse of opinions, not cultural, not tradition, going back to the colonial era coming. Do we think that there's a difference in where this is done more dominantly first, like in a rural area or in a city? Do you think that everybody experiences the same amount of discipline, or would it be different?
Is that a question for me?
Yeah, you can start with that, and then we'll go to
Okay.
Inami and Sissy.
So we're speaking of Liberia, right?
Yes.
So corporal punishment, of course. I mean, if you sat in a classroom in Liberia in the 60s, 70s, and 80s, of course, you've experienced corporal punishment. So I grew up in Buchanan, and corporal punishment was a way of disciplining students when they fell out of line. Now, do I know about what happened in Lofa or Maryland or Grand Jita? I wouldn't be able to tell you that. Of course, maybe folks who grew up in those areas would be able to tell you. But one thing I can say is, um, looking at the way we've embraced Christianity, the way we've embraced other cultures, for example, Western ideology, Western cultures, I can assume that whatever uh, corporal punishment that was being meted out to students in Buchanan or maybe Monrovia was also being carried out in other parts of the country. So I think, yes, I think it's something that has been ingrained in our society, and people think that it's acceptable.
Mm-hmm. Iname?
Punishment is a form of control, regardless of how it is exercised. It is a form of control when people want to manifest power over another person, either to bring them into submission. I mean, it's not just punishment, does not just go about on students. This is the reason why men become brutal and beat women. It is a form of control. It's a form of exercising power to break someone's spirit. Now, Christianity and the fact that also Liberians, and I will not go to so far as to analyze it, but Liberians and a lot of Africans tend to take things literally. So spare the rod, spoil the child. They take a passage and they take it literally. It becomes their gospel. And so those are some of the issues. But I strongly believe that punishment is used to control people It is, and it goes to the punishment, the shaming, the demeaning. All of those things are used to control. And we have many examples. Think about the time when you knew a child who wet the bed. They thought shaming that child will make that child stop. No, what it does is it creates anxiety in the child, so the child continues to wet the bed.
Yeah.
And it becomes a vicious circle. So I have a background in communications and how culture communicates. And so when you institute that kind of control in a society, you communicate who's in power. Whether it, and I refrain from the phrase of colonial masters and concentrate really on who's in power. And I would assume to say a lot of this is being in a male dominant society. I don't know if the women teachers did the same amount of beating, but we lived in a male dominant society. So almost everything that was done for men to show that they have power and they could dominate the women and the children.
All right. Thank you. Sissy, you want to add?
Yeah. So punishment, right, is used widely across every culture. Now, what kind of punishment and for what? Every time they agree upon rules of the group has been broken, there has to be some way to account for it and to be restored. And I like Newman speaking to the issue of their corporal peace. And if you listen to American culture these days, they keep talking about this restorative justice, right? And that's how we did in our villages before the coming of everybody else. It's that restorative justice. It's like you've broken the bond. How do you re-enter? How do you fix that? The brutal part of it, the abusive part of it, the beating part of it is what I can't fathom, right? Okay, so punishment. But punishment for what? What rules have I broken that you, and I want to put this in the context of not only Harewood Mission School, but also Sotiama. Remember the issue with Sotiama when that guy whooped that female student and kind of like broke her body? So you wet the bed, we whip you. I grew up in a lot of places. So I went to school in Phoebe. I went to Cathedral. I went to St. Dominic in Tottenham. I went to Bangor Methodist. I was all around because I was very stubborn. In fact, I spent 2 weeks at Corporal Academy and then they expelled me because I used to be very stubborn. Right, so I'm just gonna put in this space. Right? So my dad said I was on record for being the shortest ever enrolled students at Corporal Academy. He hadn't even reached Monrovia on the coin to come for me. But look, you bear wet. We beat you in Monrovia. We carry on the community and say, Sonny, dog, be my dog. Right? We beat you, and anybody in the community can beat you. You get a communion whooping. After that, you go back to your friends and not be bullied.
Yes.
You not suffer a psychological trauma. What are you trying to fix? Let's take it from the community. Let's go to schools. Every school that I went to, whether it was a Lutheran school, a Methodist school, a Catholic school, we always had some kind of teacher, Pepe. I'll walk around with a rat and get knocking you for. Like, get busy for no reason.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Power. You make it you and get knocking for no reason.
Power.
Right? What are you fixing? You go to school late, they line you all up. They whoop you. You go to school in their mindset of being unkempt. I remember I used to go to Cathedral. We'll lift our pants so they see the color of our socks, make sure it's white. You lift up your arm, they look under the armpit so to make sure that there's no stain. If there's stain, you gotta whoop it. To correct what? So when I'm late next time, I'm calculating in my brain as a student, do I come and get a whooping for being like, just go home and just be absent for one day?
Yeah.
That leads to massive dropouts. As an educator, this rote memory thing, I remember we used to stand in line by the door for both Bible and math. You set a timetable. There's this, I still remember the guy from Cathedral, man. You set a timetable, rote memory, 2001, 2003, 5,008, 5. He's going fast, and if you don't say it, for example, he tells you 5 times 4, and you don't know the answer, and next person said 20. He gives them the writing, and they have to whip you 20 times. Mm-hmm. And mind you, if that's your friend, and he doesn't whip you as harshly as this guy wants, he takes the writing for him and shows him how he wants you to whip you.
Yeah.
Right? We went through that. I remember Biofreshness. We used to memorize Biofreshness. I have my top 3. John 11:35, Jesus wept. When somebody tell him, we're getting in trouble here, right? Then we go to Romans 3:23. Somebody tell him, Jesus. Because when I finish taking my top 3 Bible verses, I'm done. I'm getting a whooping. Right? Yeah. I'm getting a whooping. So my question here is, there were times where when you even have, when you are failing through the 3 subjects, they put you in front of the school and will whip you, will demote you and whip you. To what extent? Yes. And I'll finish with this. I'll finish with it real quick. It took me going into teachers training here in the United States. I had to call on my cousin, my older cousin we grew up with, to apologize to him. This guy was going to Esther Bacon on the 11th Street there. Mm-hmm. The man failed 2nd grade 4 years in a row. Same teacher. 4 years in a row. We used to boo that man. We used to always tease this boy. We bullied that boy. We bullied that boy. It took me going to school to realize that he had a learning disability. He learned differently. But we booed him. We shamed him. That boy doesn't like school anymore. Once he got out of high school, the man here in the U.S., they tell him, man, go come here, guys, and now you have school. Because he got bullied so much in school that he started hating school. So what was the reason for us doing that? The man failed, he come home, the old man will say, depending on how many red miles you get on your average, you will not eat for those many days. So you get 4 red miles, not eating for 4 days.
Yeah.
For what end? Right?
Yeah. So hello, everybody. Thank you for joining us. Today we're talking about corporal punishment in Liberian schools. Is it disgrace? Is this a form of punishment? We also, this conversation is coming off the backdrop that a few weeks ago, there was a video that was being shared on social media where we saw Bishop Leo Simpson, who has been the principal of Haywood Mission School for many years. We saw him just cutting students' hair. So let me just give a little background on that, and then we'll continue the conversation. So I asked, when I seen the video, I reached out, I asked some Haywood students who've been there before. One of the ladies I spoke with was actually in 11th grade with Bishop Simpson. And she said to me that his original name is not even Leo Simpson, but the principal who was at Haywood at the time, that was his name. So Bishop Simpson took that name. She said, and I don't understand what he has evolved in. Yes, but since he became principal, Haywood has been known for this disciplinary act. There was a fufu stick that you will get. And then also, if you came to school late, that the cutting of the hair was either you came to school late or that the hair was not meeting his standards. So she said, Glendy, all of us, he said, very rarely you will find a female or a male student will say to you, I did not go through the disciplinary actions from Bishop Simpson. So my thing is, if this has been a continuous thing for many years, we're now in 2025, where where the human rights is more pronounced, where social media is there, and Bishop Simpson being a man of God, how can he still consider that this is okay to do? And it's based on that we wanted to come out to the public and talk about this. Whether this form of discipline is good. And we all, and everybody else talk about trauma. There's one trauma that I've not overcome, was when I got in 12th grade, Cathedral High School. Very smart student. I was extremely smart. Went to take the national exam and I failed. I failed one subject and I could not graduate. And I have not overcome that shame. And what that did for me was, it's like you go and you take the national exam, and maybe the principals and the teachers at the time did not think that that was an embarrassment for the students. Everybody will come on campus to come and receive their grades, whether you pass or you fail. Now, everybody know Glenna to be smart. My dad is well known. My family is preparing for my graduation. I get there and I go to Prof. Thomas, Stephen Thomas's office. So we have to climb the steps, cathedral, and then go walk down the hall to go to his office. And you get to the office and he say you didn't pass. You didn't pass the national exam. And what that has done to me, every time I have a public test to take, I'm always so frightened, because walking from Prof. Thomas' office with all of my classmates lined up and everybody waiting to ask me, did you pass? Did you pass? And as I'm walking through, I'm saying, no, I didn't pass. You didn't pass. Glenda, you didn't pass. The shame and the disgrace. And I think back then people didn't understand. I don't understand why they made us go through that. That after you went to school for so many years, you get to 12th grade, you don't pass the national exam, and you cannot march, you cannot graduate. So how this came about, my class, we just celebrated 40 years, and somebody shared the graduation program. And again, for me, I remember that. But these are some of the trauma we went through, that we cannot continue to go through these things and say it's okay. Because even though we may have hitting our feelings back then, the kids today, it has a serious impact on them. And in Liberian schools, we have to be able to have a reformation that says you cannot be disgracing students like this and think it's acceptable. So let's look at trauma. Let's look at how do we distinguish between maintaining discipline and inflicting trauma in our school environment in Liberia.
But look, it's just not the school. It's done in the home also. And so let's take, for instance, a child is late. That child being late is not necessarily their doing. So let's say if that child has the whole family gets in the car and they drive them to school. Why isn't that transportation leaving on time? So I'm the child. I have no control over when the driver leaves the house. Okay, maybe you're all dressed and you're sitting down waiting for Ma to put on her fan lapper, or for Pa to drag himself under her bed. Who knows? But you get to school late and then it becomes your responsibility. That is too much to put on the child. It's also too much. Look, we have people in Liberia who can barely afford food. So my socks is old. You're gonna beat me because my parents don't have the money to buy me new socks?
Or to cut my hair?
Or to cut my hair? But I look at those children's hair. It wasn't like they had afro or they were unpresentable. So for parents to allow this to continue, they are responsible. I guarantee you, if anybody had even dreamed to look at me high in convent school, when earlier June reached to that school, oh no, all hell would have broken loose. Because we are looking to instill consequences in our children. When you break the rules of society, when you break the rules of the house, there must be consequences. And those consequences must be where, one, is explained to the child what happened and why it is necessary for them to be taught a lesson. I remember when I had my one and only child, the joke in the Liberian community in Maryland, they racing her by Bogo, and they used to be laughing. They said, because I racing my child by a book. My baby talked at 11 months. She had a high ability to reason. So I'm going to talk to her like up to the standard in which I I feel she can comprehend what I'm saying. I am not going to shame my child because the household I grew up in, respect. My parents showed us respect even as children. And what did I do? That made us so close to our parents. My first date, our 12-year-old and me and my pa went to see movie and Rella in the night. All the president's men, even though I couldn't understand one bit of the movie, but the fact that my father took me to a movie at 12, it made us very close to our parents. We had the kind of conversation with our parents that most Liberian kids do not or did not have with the parents.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
that's what happens when you instill an ability and confidence in children. When you instill fear, that's why the girls used to be pregnant and ready to deliver before they know they're pregnant.
Yes. Alrighty.
Because of that fear and the shaming. So
Yes.
the parents need to put a stop to this.
Yeah, and just to your point, I know this is Mother Alice Reese is saying parents have to rise up for some of these practices to stop, especially for the passing of wire as a requirement to be part of the graduation ceremony. I tell you, that thing continues with me today. It stayed with me through all now. So let's go to Nominee, if you want to come in on that, convert on that piece, on that question, maintaining discipline and inflicting trauma in our school environment.
Yeah, so I was while Ann and May and Cece was talking, I was going back to look at how many high schools do we have in in Liberia, and I think hold on, let me read a little bit here. So according to 2024 data, there's 406 schools in total, 383 in Monserrato, 12 in Mangibi, 6 in Grand Baza, 2 in Bombing, 2 in Nima, and 1 in Lufa. I don't know why that data is right though, but think about it. If you look at the whole issue of punishment in school and those punishment being meted out on the kids, there's a larger picture you have to look at, and that is one of the pictures you have to look at is the economic piece. A lot of parents struggle, especially parents coming out of the war, or parents coming out of the economic hardship, of global disease and pandemic. So there's a lot of things to look at. Now, the responsibility, of course, lies on the community. And by community, I mean the school and the parents. So a lot of times, we go to, universities in the West. When I mean the West, I mean Europe, America, and other places. And a lot of the case studies that we read about, they're designed or they come out of those societies. A lot of times we don't really dig deeper to understand our own society, some of the challenges that exist within our society, so that the methods that are developed and the solutions are tailored towards the actual problems that exist within our society. And that's one of the reasons why I'm a very strong advocate of grassroots or community development or community or problem-solving approach when it comes to school development in Liberia. We really have to understand, send people out into the community or talk to the parents to understand exactly what are driving some of those issues, why kids are showing up to school untidy, why they are coming into school late, and why some of the kids are even sleeping in class. So those are some of the things that we need to understand from a community grassroots level. It's easy to blame the child, right? But hey, you cannot beat poverty out of a child. No matter how many times you use the cane on that child, it is just impossible to turn his situation around. But if the leaders at the schools understand what's going on in those communities, I think it's going to help the policymakers, of course, to develop better policy, and the people who make the laws to support those schools. Because if you look at the data, 400 and change schools in Liberia, and majority of those, and just to point out, the data is actually on primary schools, so it's primary and secondary schools.
Mm-hmm.
So the bulk of our primary and secondary schools are in Maserati.
Mm-hmm.
So if we're seeing these problems at, for example, a school like Hewu, right in, the outside few miles from Monrovia, then it means that we can all ask ourselves what's going on in places like Nima and other places. But before I close, I wanted to go back a little bit to one of the points that Anna made earlier about the whole idea of punishment being a male thing. I want to slightly disagree. If you look at our history, the history of Africa, the history of Liberia, you cannot disassociate us from what the colonial rulers did to Africa. We cannot. The whole idea of punitive discipline was enforced as a means of obedience. And I want to
who were the one? Who were the masters? Who were the one?
Let him finish and you come in.
The horses doing the discipline. You misquote me.
Let me complete and then you can add.
Okay, you can quote yourself well, anime, when I'm done. But the point I'm trying to make here is, look, I love African literature, right? And I always point to Chinua Achebe book, Things Fall Apart. So if you've ever read Things Fall Apart, in chapter 4, it talks about how Okonkwo, who's the main character, during a week of peace, he actually assaulted his wife. And the elders of the village decided that he was going to be punished. So the whole idea of corporal punishment, you want to look at it, looking at our African setting, if you look back at that book, it talks about a week of peace. And the week of peace wasn't something that the white man brought. It was already there. It was there in Africa. It was in our communities before the white man came. But I will end there and then allow other views.
All right. Okay, Ineme, we'll give you 30 seconds to add and then we'll bring Sissy.
30 seconds to correct the fact that Liberia and Africa and almost most of the world is a male-dominated world. And that is how power is exercised. I stand by that. I see what happens to women when they are divorced and they are then economically impoverished because of a male-dominated society. Now, that is not the only reason. But when power is exercised, it is usually exercised by a man. Women beat too, I know that. But we must not excuse the fact that power has to play a part. How many bishops are there that are male? It's now that the Episcopal, I think the Lutheran and the Methodists are allowing women to become priests and bishops. So, yeah, that's my opinion. All the problems in the world come from you.
All right, let me add. I see Mr. Killen in the back. I'm gonna add him to the thing. Let me see here if I can add. Apparently I cannot. It is not allowing me to add you. We'll see. But anyway, Cece, go ahead. Let me work with putting him.
Either way, I can see the stage to him because he's a very He's a young Liberian guy who's in education and administration. I will be more than happy to cede my space to him. Having said that, look, I wanted to talk on the issue of discipline and abuse. And I've been one of those people that created that flyer that's been going around, and hey, who people are being in my inbox. And I'm not going to walk this line being shamed. What Leo Masterboy Simpson has been doing for a long time, quite a lot of money. What he has been doing for a long time is not discipline, it's abuse.
It's abuse.
Reverend, Bishop, Dr. Leo Masterboy Simpson is an abuser, not an administrator, not a disciplinarian. Let's get that fact straight. To poverty shame people. Nobody is on the stream with me right now. Nobody, I have 2 different haircuts. I'm missing on my piece anyway. I got to put my piece in. But to visit upon Newman that he has to look like me, like I have within my mind this God complex, this Eurocentric view, this colonized mindset that the missionaries put in Leo Simpson, that there is a certain way for you to look to be considered decent and appropriate. That is the problem. And I put in one of my stars, Leo said, you need a haircut. Right? Why are you doing that? Who died and put you in charge of determining what is good enough for somebody to look like? The question any trained administrator will be asking themselves is, what does the look of their student, how does that distract from the learning? If the way you appear in school distract other people from learning, that has to be addressed. But how am I coming to school because my Oma ain't able to cut my hair today? I can't do school my hair. This is part of plan my hair is distracting people from learning. I will put this in the space because we're discussing stuff, and I like to be vulnerable because I like for people to know where I come from, where my passion for education comes from. I never lived with my biological parents together, both of them. I always grew up in a single parent household. My mom went to school late. I am a product of teen parents. My mom was 13. My dad was 15 when they had me. My mom was in 3rd grade, and my dad was in the 5th grade. She dropped out of school after she had me. That was it. My dad, because my grandfather was a chief that had 11 wives with 36 kids. He had to find way through missionary, all kinds of stuff, went to Canada, go to school, everything, to put himself through night school. And he vowed that I was going to go to the best schools possible. And so he sent me to Cathedral, not because he could afford it, but he would sometimes take 4 months' salary in advance to pay my semester tuition. And so I remember I was in Cathedral one year. I was doing the entire Cathedral. You know, the only course I was failing? PE. You know why I was failing PE? Because my dad couldn't afford to buy my PE sneakers. I will go to school with my trusted tear. When I saw it, and I get shot. People will shame me for that. Mind you, I was losing my class. But I was always being shamed, poverty shame. Right? And so when you look at what Leo Simpson is doing, my one question that comes to mind is, number one, why is he even still an administrator? Does the Haywood mission system lack so much for being able to look outside to replace somebody that's been leading your institution for decades, have never one day gone back to learn on any new research? So I will put this in the space, and the Haywood people can come and find me wherever they want to find me. Leo Masterboy Simpson is not a disciplinarian. He's an abuser. I said that he got a problem with me, Lufa County. The last part I will put out here, and then I will stop, is the question about WASC. I've been one of those people that's been pushing, if we're going to keep WASC as a graduation requirement, then in Liberia, what we need to do is to make sure that you're taking a WASC in 11th grade. Mm-hmm. Here's my rationale. You take it in 11th grade. If you pass it, you start to take college classes. If you fail it, you still got 1 year, 12th grade, while you're with your teachers to do remediation and take it again in 12th grade. Now wait till 12th grade, the person fail it, you see, and then they can't graduate, then they go and they can't come back for reset most of the time. So if you want to keep it as a graduation requirement, then take it in 11th grade. And then people get opportunity to make up for it while they stay in school so they can be able to graduate, so you don't shame them. And if you can't get, killing, or I can get off, it can come out. I just want to put that in the space.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on. I see Mr. Kellen in the back. Um, so I'm not sure because usually StreamYard can take up to 9 people.
Yeah, yeah.
So I don't know what the issue is and why I can't. Maybe it could be my computer. But I'll keep trying. Let's continue with the conversation. I tried
But
to remove my.
Danny, I wanted to make a few points.
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead. Let's continue.
So I remember when the issue came about with Mr. Simpson. I was one of those, for the sake of disclosure, I was one of those who asked the question, what does the student handbook say about, the relationship or the disciplinary actions that the school uh, must enforce when students do not reach or do not meet, uh, the guidelines as far as maybe showing up on time, being properly dressed. Because I think that's important. Because if you look at the whole issue of corporal punishment, of course you have to address it from several different facets, right? So one is, of course, the cultural aspect, the role of the schools, and then one is law, because it's important to have laws on the book that will help guide some of these institutions. If there are no laws, then it means that people like Mr. Simpson can go about and create his own laws. So that's where the Ministry of Education comes in.
Yeah.
So now the focus must also shift to the Ministry of Education. What are the laws? What are the rules? Looking back, I was trying to understand if Liberia was a signatory to any of those laws regarding corporal punishment. Interestingly, Liberia is not a signatory to any of those laws, but we did sign some laws that covers the right of a child. Now, have those laws been enforced even at the school, high school, or secondary school, or elementary school level? I don't think so. And I think the reasons why, or some of the reasons why those laws haven't been enforced is because we have accepted corporal punishment as a way of life.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
We have accepted it. And the reason why I'm saying that is because I did a little short survey, right? I called a few of my family members in Liberia because I was trying to understand their own perspective. And a lot of them agreed that, in fact, one of the family members I talked to, the person said, yeah, let Mr. Simpson deal with the children. They don't have to go to school on time. Some of them just be hanging out in the market the whole day. They don't want to come to school on time out there. But, we who live in America and other places, the fact that we have our kids going to school and the situation here is different, we will have a different perspective. So now, I think there's a breach to cover, right? Means that our thought process and the thought process of the people back home, we have to merge those thought lines and see if we can all get to a better understanding and help people understand that discipline doesn't equal punishment.
Exactly.
Discipline does not equal punishment. Discipline can be something that we use to help our children grow intellectually, mentally, help them get to that level where they see themselves as being productive citizens. It's not always about what Mr. Simpson is doing. I think Mr. Simpson needs to be reprimanded, and I think the Ministry of Education needs to take a step further by having principals, teachers, and educators training that will help us move away from such scenarios. That's the point I wanted to make.
Yeah, and I think you make a great point because I was also very surprised that there were quite a few people who are hailing Bishop Simpson to this day. Some people were upset. They told me to mind my business. Some people were like, well, I hope you're planning to come to Liberia to take care of some of these rude children and all of that. And I think you make a salient point when you say discipline should not be punishment. You're disciplining a child so that child knows right from wrong.
Yeah.
That's what the decision should be. It should not be that someone should go through pain or disgrace to be able to stop a behavior. How is it that someone is coming to school late? And like Ineme said earlier, you don't even know why they came to school late. It just has been your practice that if you come to school at a certain time, you're going to get your hair cut. And so that poor child gets in there, and then you see so many of them, they retaliate and they don't want to go to school. So it's almost like we have to be able to, and I like how sister just hit it on the head. What is being done at Haywood is an abuse.
Yeah.
And you find out that former students from Haywood who went through this kind of punishment, who will not allow anyone to do it to their child or their children, they're healing that. And I could not understand that. So, Ineme, if you want to come in, then we can move on to the next. If you have anything to add.
Well, sometimes we don't go the step forward to ask the question. Like when somebody say, "Oh yeah, let him deal with it during the hanging around in the market." My next question, and I don't know if it was asked, is, do you know why that child is hanging around in the market? We do not ask the next question. Sometimes you sit around here, you see, usually the comedians and stuff will send somebody out in the street to talk to the people. When you're talking to the person and they're talking about how this is wrong, that is wrong, and you start to give them facts, counter them with facts, then they start looking at you like a deer caught in the headlights. So, again, we are putting so much responsibility on children. Let children be children. Why is that child in the market? Because maybe the mother sent that child to go sell market. Sometimes the kids don't just jump up and say, "I'm going to walk Maria Street and be selling 5-cent gum." Their parents send them there. And poverty, I say it and I'll say it again. The poorest people in the world are Black women and children, because most of them find themselves where they're in war-torn countries. Their husbands are dead. Somebody now killed the husband. They're left with the children. And we have the other situation of a man deciding that he's going to go and have 1,000 children and not supporting them. And then, yeah, you got to send...
The Solomon children don't have more us. We just follow
I just found her with.
No, man. You can follow her. Bring it right back to us and pro on here.
100 children, and then you then sending that child to go sit down in somebody's office for hours to beg for one shoe. So we have to look at everything in our society. How is it that we are putting our children in harm's way? Yes. And going to school hungry is just not in Africa. I know a lot of schools here in this America with a big, beautiful bill. The amount of children who will be hungry because that morning breakfast is the only food some of these children will get until they go home after school. So when we are voting, we must think about who we're voting for. When we vote for idiots, when we vote for people who think that $30,000 that the government gave them is their own personal money to go in the counties and give people, when they make it sound like it's their money instead of the Liberian people money. When you are casting your vote, understand what you're casting your vote for. Yes. Because all of these things affect our lives.
Thank you.
So as an educator, can I just put two things
in? Yes, please.
Number one, that is why I said shame on Haywood Mission School for still having Leo Masterboy Simpson as an administrator up to this time. Because here is the question administrators ask and teachers ask. If the students are coming close to the building by hanging out in the market, you have to ask the question, why? Why do these kids now want to enter the fence? Why? Is there trauma? Is there abuse happening? Do they feel that they're below grade level for the content that's being delivered? Therefore, I don't want to be in the classroom to look like I'm dull. Therefore, I'm going to avoid it. Have you asked that question? Have you asked that maybe some of these kids, like in the Mesa, come from poor background? Because I lived with my father, and he was a single father. He did his best for me. Used to have to sell sometimes to go afternoon school. I used to have to say in the day to go to afternoon school to Cathedral. Go sell dono and koi. Right? Have you as an administrator asked those kids instead of punishing them, instead of abusing them? Hey, young man or young lady, why are you late today? Oh, I had to watch my little brother or little sister because my mom had to go in the market. She come back. Okay, fine. Can you adapt the schedule to fit that one child? Can you excuse them? Can you try to be not 10 minutes late, but maybe 5 minutes late next time? Okay, Reverend, I understand that. That is how you build relationship. Schools are supposed to be safety places for our students. And just real quick, and I'll be quiet because I really like the fact that my younger brother is here. You can talk about this a lot more. There are a lot of kids that go to school hungry in this America. Used to, when I was teaching at Brooklyn Center Secondary School, we had 85% students on free and reduced lunch. Where a lot of these kids, when we close school for summer, we used to be worried because they're going home where there will be no food. When we close school for winter, we got to give these kids food. And also now open the building for them to come for breakfast because they don't have food. My food I used to take, I used to bribe kids to eat it just so to do my homework. Because they didn't do my homework, they were hungry. I give my research, eat my food, do my homework, right? And that's how you build relationships because kids go to school hungry. I was one of those kids that went to school hungry. I know what that means on the psyche of the child. So one thing is you have to have educators and administrators that keep refreshing themselves in current research. The child comes near the school and don't enter the school. As an administrator, what is your question? What questions are you asking? Instead of just cutting this child hair or publicly shaming them and people recording the video with you shaming them, that's just abuse. You know, and I'll be quiet on that note.
So hello everybody. Finally, thank you for continuing to join this conversation here. We are now privileged to have Foster Richard Kellen. This is a principal, I don't know, former principal, but these two men here, he and sister, they are educators, so they can come from a teacher perspective as we continue to conversate on this issue of corporal punishment in school, which is a disgrace. And we're coming off the backdrop from watching Bishop Leo Simpson continuing to empower himself by punishing students and saying that he's trying to discipline them. We want this to stop. We want him to have a change of heart, but we also want to empower parents. And we want to empower parents also who are saying that what Bishop Simpson is doing is right. We want you to look at yourself. Would you allow anyone to just take a pair of scissors to cut your child's hair and you think it's okay? We understand that. We understand the connotations that, because he does that, Haywood Mission School has been strict. But such a form of punishment in 2025, it was wrong then. We didn't have the voice then to speak, but it's wrong now, and so we're bringing it to the forefront. Welcome, Mr. Kellum. Just talk to us because I'm sure you know about the conversation that's going on. Give us your view, your thoughts on where we are so far. And your lighting, I don't know if you can add a little more lighting because you're not as bright as Glendy. So
yeah, I'm gonna work on it. I'm not the most tech savvy guy, but I'll try.
Okay.
Anyways, thank you, Glendy, for setting this stage.
Why you sound like this? Is it because all the Minnesota people sound here like the three of you?
How looking?
We're doing Prince. How looking?
No, yeah, but anyway, thank you for setting up this stage and the fellow panelists and everybody who's watching. I think this is an opportunity for us to really talk about.
Maybe introduce yourself a little bit.
So I'm Foster Killen. I'm currently a middle school counselor at the Eden Private Schools here in the Twin Cities. I'm not a principal yet. I actually just got done with my admin license, and so
Great.
that's my next step. And part of that reason is to, move and start impacting teachers and start looking into district policy and things like that. So that was the drive behind the goal. But I've been in schools for a long time. I've been knowing Zizi for a long time, another administrator, and I'm very passionate about this topic. And one thing I want to start off, I want to come from another lens. I know we're going to talk about Leo Sims, but I also wanted to think about. I think the other brother talked about MOE, right? And what are the policy we have in Liberia? Because this is not just Leo Simpson. This is a practice that's been going on for as long as we can remember. I will share a little bit about my experience. I had that happen to me too, and I think I said it to you, Glennie, when you first made that post went viral. I was in about sixth grade in elementary school. I won't call it schooling because I don't want to come for them. But anyways, the dean of student at the time brought scissors, and same thing. He just went through kids' hair. I mean, my hair is low, but you can still take something out of it if you use a scissor, right? At the time, we didn't know what it meant. We thought it was discipline. We thought it was, something that we needed to do to keep our hair low. I went home. My mom got a barber, cut my hair very low. Went to school the next day. It took a while. It actually took high school till I started understanding the impact of that practice and what that did to me and many other young people at the time. So this is not just about Leo. I've heard about Haywood Mission. I know they've had, a long standing. They've, put out a lot of product. People who I know that are people into the society. And so I know that ZZ is coming strong. A lot of people coming strong, but this is Liberia educational practices. Okay, so again, the Ministry of Education have a responsibility in terms of what are the policy. Do we even do audit on schools to know what practices are going on in schools? I have a 3-year-old. He keeps his hair. It's part of his identity. I would not want anybody to cut his hair. If he's choosing to make that choice, that's on him. That is a very colonial mindset when colonial masters thought they needed to humiliate us. And this is a practice that is even going on right now in Ghana. I live in Ghana for 2 years. And across the board in public schools, girls, boys, regardless of your gender, you have to cut your hair. And the rationale behind that logic at the time was that it distracts you. Okay. Then there's private school who are a little bit more relaxed, and their girls can do things with hair. And those girls are going to become permanent people. So I don't know if there's any research out there that justify that your hair being low or your hair not being low impact a distraction. So I disagree with that practice. But again, like I said, I don't want to just microscope Leo Simpson, but we need to talk about the entire Liberia. I will share one more thought and I will take a rest. My school at the time, also they are demolished a building. Just imagine. And they couldn't pay for labor. They will use late student. They will use people who, per the school policy, have behavior to move the debris of the building that was demolished. That practices went for maybe almost 10 plus years, even after we left the school. And that's how they declared a site for the new building. Can you imagine kids' educational time, the academic time, were taken away for them to go and move breaking blocks? So it's not just even hair cutting, but just like the practices within Liberia. Are we even doing a new research development? We are educating 21st century student. Things we went through is different from the current generation now. My 3-year-old know about iPad. He know things that I never knew at 3. And so we got to stay abreast and really think about how are we impacting young learners. So that's where I want to stop.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Let me just share. So, for those of you joining us, we're talking today about corporal punishment in Liberian schools, disgrace, shaming. What does it mean? The emotional impact it has on children. And this conversation is coming off the backdrop of Bishop Leo Simpson, who is the principal of Hillwood School, who for many years has had this form of discipline on students. But we're saying that this form of discipline is not discipline, it's punishment, it's abuse, and it needs to stop. And this is the picture from the video. I want to give credit to whoever did the video. I don't know who is the owner of the video and how they got this video, but we want to give credit for them highlighting this, that we were able to share, and that's Bishop Leo Simpson. As you can see, one of the excuses were all the rule is that they have to have low haircut, but clearly you can see there that the cut is low, and there are other students before this young man. You can see them going. I think this was like the third or the fourth child's hair that he had, that same sisters were in cut. So we own no rights to the picture or to the video, but this we took this video, and it was based on this video that we wanted to do this podcast today to talk about it and give some opinion on that.
Mandy, can you put that screenshot up? I just want one second. I want our audience to focus on the child's expression.
Mm-hmm.
Look at that little boy expression. Look at his teeth. That's why when you put, look at his expression, his reaction to what is being done.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we said that he haircut too.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
One other thing that, and again, when it comes, again, I am fighting for women, so I focus on women. Another thing is people's definition of beauty. When they are cutting girls' hair, Ghana, Liberia, whatever, even in these United States, a Black woman is told that she is not beautiful if she doesn't have straight hair. The impact of having girls, quote unquote, look like boys, diminish their worth. You are telling them they are not pretty. You and that this other thing makes them pretty. So again, the cutting of the hair, they're using the hair as a way to diminish the worth of a woman. Creates a whole different situation. This is the 20th whatever century, and states in United States had to pass law to give Black women the right to wear their natural hair. It's abuse. It's abuse of a woman, of a Black woman, no matter where she stands. And the more we sit and allow, I don't even think the Ministry of Education, and I'm guessing, has anything on their books about such things. To audit a school. I mean, in the handbook, again, who's writing the handbook? The same person who's standing there cutting somebody's hair? Somewhere there needs to be trustees, people who are looking out for our children.
Yes.
Because apparently the people who we send them to school to be the guardian at the school, it's not looking up for them.
Yeah. So let's look at parents. Let's in this conversation, because we've heard. I'm sure all of us. Nominee did a survey, talked to people. Sissy, I've gotten a lot of inbox messages, like which one is my business and all that stuff. I want to talk because in some parents even came up and said, Do you know how much Bishop Simpson have helped me with my child? So I want to talk about parents and their approach to this, as it has not seen the impact, the negative impact that this will have on their children, but they are not looking at the immediate results. Oh, my child was rude and my child was this, and Bishop Simpson turning around, not understanding the trauma that child is going through from that. I want to start with you, Mr. Kellen. What role do you think parents should play in this? And it shouldn't be about them. It should be about their children.
Yeah, that's a very. Can I have the name of the other panelists? Is not showing up besides you and CZ. I remember the other panelists from. I don't have the name. I want to address people.
Oh, that's that what's it?
The,
I
the
want
brother,
to say the Quiwe. Normani. It's Normani.
That's the chairman and CEO of Fred Pape Association.
That's
Exactly.
Normani, and then Enid May. Enid
pronounce
May.
your Ente May.
Enid May.
Enid May. And then the other gentleman, your name again?
No many.
No many.
No
Okay.
many.
All right. He's gonna have it. That's a good question. So parents play a vital role in education. It's actually a partnership. It is a partnership. I can't imagine educating children without the involvement of their parents. It's just not possible. So my struggle now is if the parents have had the same experience, right? Their perception is sort of narrow. A lot of us are having this conversation probably because we have had diverse perspective. We probably wouldn't be talking here if we all have lived in Liberia throughout and haven't been anywhere else. So parents are important in the process because they are the kids' number one advocate. Now, if they are not seeing a different side, then we, as educators, right, we have to be social justice educators and help those parents see why this practice, again, not just Leo, but these practices around kids' haircut, what they need to wear. Don't get me wrong. I value strong traditional African education. I've yearned for the days we'll have textbooks written by Zizi Goya that our kids can learn in school in math. That is what I want. So I also have a challenge to be part of that process. So I'm not taking away our education system. I've been going to adapt Western education, which many are being educated, in the Western way. But regardless of culture, regardless of where, there are just certain things that you cannot do, whether it is in the United States or Europe or in Africa or in any village, right? We have to educate parents about the role they are playing in the kids' life. They are partners with the school system because here who is run on money. If the parents take away the funding and send no child to that school, here who will be forced to abide by the policy that the parent want the kids to be educated in. So the parent need to know that their dollar have a value. The school fee they're paying have a value. Yes, there might be time where maybe the school may let the child go to school because the child short school fees. That doesn't justify why kids should have a certain level of struggle. I mean, like ZZ point out, you look at that kid kind of like crunching his teeth. I don't know the level of excruciating pain she is going through, and what that trauma is going to do to that child. So parents out there who are sending the kids to Hayward Mission, you have a role in having a PTO, right? You're in a school your kid go to, you have a role in having a PTO, you have a role in being involved with the school leaders and also evaluating the policy. If they cannot make you an equal partner, take your kids, take your money. That school will not survive without your money.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you. Nomini, you want to go?
Yeah. So, Mr. Killen, I think you've addressed part of the problem and not the whole. And I'll try to add my own voice. And this is just based off my own experience when I was in high school in Liberia. I'll try not to call folks names because some of them are still on Facebook and we still interact. but when I was in high school, there was this young man who paid his own school fees, lived by himself, and he would come to school every day. This guy was late. Every single day. So a child like that or a person like that, who do you talk to? He doesn't have a parent. You know, this guy is practically, you know, responsible for himself. You know, and we had a joke, you know, some of the guys, but mind you, he was extremely clever. You know, he comes to school late every day, but he still managed to catch up and make good grades. So we had a joke in the class, and people would say, "Oh, he had a magic." Some of my friends would say, "My man, that man got some of that magic energy. Some of that man kind of class. Watching." The man would stand to the classroom door and web his face with a handkerchief. I saw him web his face, he feeling webbing. Oh, I want knowledge. You know, but other than the fact that, you know, I'm trying to make a light moment, but these are some of the challenges within the schools. Some of these kids, they fend for themselves.
Mm-hmm.
They find their own food. Some of them have to maybe spend a few hours in the market trying to sell before making their way to school. So it is the responsibility of the community, the school, the Ministry of Education. It is their responsibility to understand some of these dynamics. Because imagine when we experience our civil crisis, some of these kids that face extreme punitive and corporal punishment in schools, some of them were very bitter.
Mm-hmm.
Some of them were very bitter. So imagine new men coming to school every day late, and the guy, one teacher there called Johnny just whipping me every single day. And then the war comes, and I joined the NPFL or one of the rebel forces. And then here comes Johnny walking up to my command center.
Mm-hmm.
This is our past. This is Liberia. Those are some of the things that happened when we had our civil crisis. So it's very important that we reflect on some of these things, look at the way we run our schools, look at the way we treat our children. Some of these kids subjected grown men, you know, to very horrible things in front of their families. You know, we didn't take the time. If we don't take the time to understand our past, then you know, the road ahead is going to look the same.
Mm-hmm.
And one of these days, we might come and face the exact same past that we faced already. So we have to make some very strong efforts to change the future. We must change the future. And that conversation, you know, even though it's difficult, but we need to have those conversations. And to close, it's important, very, very important, that the Ministry of Education. Now, the reason why I'm calling out the Ministry of Education, because these are the policy, or this is the policy maker. These are the folks who make the policy for our schools. Mm-hmm. It's important that they take this issue seriously. You know, a lot of times, you know, for us who live in America and other places, it's easy for us to see these things because we've read about it, we've seen data, we've seen videos, But imagine a person that's born today, and for 20 years, that person have never, ever seen a motor vehicle. And then all of a sudden you go to the person and say, look, there's this thing called motor vehicle. When you get in it, you travel so fast, you're so comfortable, that individual is not going to relate. It's going to look like something very distant, very far. So we have to bring our people and give them that experience, give them the knowledge. Have the Ministry of Education can take one school and conduct studies. Send people there to understand, have conversation with the students, know their background, their challenges, and then show data to the educators or people who wish to be educators, and let them understand the reason why corporal punishment is so, so, so bad. That's how you bring people along. Going and telling will not always convince people. You have to show them, and you have to be with them to walk along that journey. So with that, I will take a pause and hand it over.
All right. Cece, you have anything to add? Yeah.
Yeah. So a few things. I know my brother Kellen doesn't want me to just focus on Leo. You're right. But I think Leo is the president of the Liberian Abusive Administration Association, so I got to focus on him. It's an association. Just how we told Taylor and saying to the Hague, but we left other people behind. Somebody got to account for what's going on. Look, remember 2019 when St. Solomon Joa Jr. beat a 10th grade student so bad, 50 latches, that it left marks. It broke her skin. It took the parents of that child to take them to court before they had to put them in jail. The ministry came out with a statement saying that they have put up a guideline that frown on corporal punishment. As of today's date, there has been no meaningful, really action that will serve as a deterrent to other members of the Liberian Abusive Administrators Association, right? Nothing meaningful. And so it is, like Foster said, we have to start looking at the Ministry of Education also. The parents part, here's where I'm sympathetic. Nobody explain about, people can say self-read, right? We make it like it's a bad thing. People who are unfortunate do not have their parents in there. So I don't want self-read, But you have those people who are independent students who go to school. And sometimes that person has to go to cell in order to afford the tuition you're charging it. And so they have to come to school late. You're not asking them any question, why are you coming to school late? How can we accommodate your situation so that your life does not affect, or your economic condition does not affect your outcome in the school? We don't ask those questions, right? We start to give you name as the serial late come up, 500 other things come up. In these United States, there are parents here who don't even know their educational rights. And Foster, you can bear me on that. There are a lot of parents in this America who don't know what their rights are as parents in education. So now imagine in Liberia, where my Oma got to go sell in Raritan Market. And we have this complex in Liberia that we send our children to school for the school to fix them. So anything you're doing on campus, you're doing it. Right? We don't care. Do whatever you have to do on your campus. So when you add those two things together, it is a very dangerous mix. Imagine somebody saying it's a good thing for Leo to do what he's doing. Corporal punishment is a good thing. Well, if it's a good thing, why don't you do it as the parent? Why aren't you doing their punishment as a parent? Why are you outsourcing that to Leo Masterboy Simpson? If you think it's a good thing to have your child haircut, why aren't you cutting it? If it's a good thing to have the fufu steak to your child, why aren't you laying the fufu steak on your child? Why outsource that to Master Boy? If corporal punishment is so good, why don't you do it? Why are you outsourcing abuse? So for me, my thing is, you're right. I don't want to focus on Leo. I wanted to just bring that out because it's the biggest thing. So Tiama did the same thing. We came against them really hard on their piece. But there has to come a a come to Jesus moment,
Yes.
where we actually sit down in Liberian education and actually lay out what do we have, what is happening, what needs to change, how can we change it, how can we educate people. If a parent was abused in one of these school systems, chances are that parent sees this as a good thing. And they're allowing that to happen. Meanwhile, they don't abuse their child at home, but they allow their child to go to school for an educator to abuse them. And that's the thing that hurts me as an educator, because we are supposed to be in the place of trust. In this America, there are children who get abused by their parents. I am the one that come to as their safe haven. I am the one that come to. And so if I am the one abusing them, where do they have to go?
Nowhere. Nowhere. Thank you so much. Ineme, if you just end there, and then the next question we want to look at is, as we come to a close here, want to look at what would be some of the suggestions on what can be used, what other forms of discipline that can be used that will not seem as punishment for our students. Ineme, you can end this the conversation.
I wanted to add on to what Newman said, because what he said was just what I have been thinking, that some of the systematic social issues in Liberia stems from this culture of shaming, demoralizing of people. And we saw the impact of those things from the coup to the wartime. When you continue to demoralize people and then you encourage a system of bullying, where then the kids around them are made to bully people. And so we create a situation where payback, when I get in power, somebody will feel it. We create that kind of situation of people retaliating against each other. But the other thing I want to say is the abuser always, the abuse always become the abuser.
Mm-hmm.
When people are abused, whether they're abused at home, in school, they become abusers. So when some parents say, "Oh, it's okay for them to beat their children," it's because they were beaten. Whether they were beaten at home, in school, they were beaten. And so you get a cycle of abuse that continues. But we have to, as a society, start to get people to understand that our problems in Liberia did not just come out of a vacuum. It came out of the things that we allowed to happen, the things that we perpetuated and kept on doing. And the psychological, we Black people, we don't really put the weight on the psychological as we should. Maybe because we are a resilient race. We have overcome so much that we do not take into consideration the psychological impact of our words, our actions, and our deeds, how it impacts us, particularly how it impacts our children. Because for some reason, we do not show children the respect that they deserve as humans. The dignity and respect. Even your newborn baby should be treated with dignity and respect. And we don't do that. We don't do, "Oh man, that's my children, man, I'm friend, yeah. Oh, what you child, what you know? What you mean, what you know? That dumb, that vacuum in the head that you or your child that they can't reason. So when is the age that people that start reasoning? When they reach 20? Come on now. And so those are the things that we need to start teaching.
Hello, Dad.
The parents, that respect of your children is important. Not just respect from the school administrator, respect from you as the parent, and respect from the community as a whole.
Thank you. Thank you. So as we
Glennie, can I make a quick point?
sure go ahead.
Move. So one of the things that I've been thinking about throughout this whole time, something we don't also talk about in Liberia, hiring practices. I work in the HR for school district back in the days, and I'm also involved in hiring within my building. And when you are hiring, you look for the best and brightest. You don't bring anything personal into it. So I'll make an example. My big brother Zizi Goya, if nobody can remember, at some point he had dreadlocks. Believe it or not, he did. And he taught at the local high school here. So if someone like Zizi Goya were to apply for a job at Haywood as a math teacher with dreadlocks, or a hairstyle that doesn't sit well with the hiring manager, which is Leo, right? Another person who is well shaved, right? That's the choice they want to take for the hairstyle. How do you make hiring practices? Zizi has the background, or somebody like Zizi. He's knowledgeable. He's a great math teacher and everything. You may have another person who may be still inexperienced or they're lacking something. But now you're making a decision based on personal belief. And you miss the chance to hire the right, competent teacher for the kids. When you're hiring for the student, not your who you like. It's not for your comfort, it's about who can teach these kids content. And every time we hire, you have to justify the hiring. And if the hiring practices seems to be a pattern where you're hiring social male or just female or just white male, there's a question. What are these practices for? So I don't want to bring that point into space because I can't imagine how Dr. Sampson is hiring people if he's cutting kids' hair. How is he deciding to hire teachers who come and teach at school? There is a cultural clash right now going on in Ghana. Ghana have opened up the country. They did the year of return. African American, other Black people are coming to the country to live. They are coming with their own value. And some of those values are contradicting to the traditional Ghanaian value. There's kids now who are going to Ghanaian public school with dreadlocks. If you're going to consider opening your country, and you're going to maintain the practice of shaved hair in school for boys and girls, there's a contradiction there. People are not going to stay. So I just want to bring that into the space here. And that's something that MOE have to look into, these hiring practices at both public and private schools. We want the brightest mind teaching our kids, not who the hiring manager comfortable with.
Thank you so much.
I know it's hard for people to phantom seeing me with dreadlocks, but yeah, many I don't have dreadlocks.
He did. He surely did. I've seen his dreadlocks pictures.
and by the way, real quick, the reason I cut my locks was when I work as an engineer, it was okay to keep my locks. Nobody cared. You see an electrical engineer with dreadlocks was okay. When I was trying to transition into education, I had to cut my locks because of the same thing Foster just talked about. Folks kept telling me it was going to be difficult for me to get a job teaching with a dreadlock. And now I'm like Leo Simpson with a bald head.
But thank you to all of you as we close. I want you to say, at least as you do your closing comments, say one or two things that can be used in place of what we've seen, and what will be your message to Bishop Simpson. As much as we want to come and highlight what we've seen and how distasteful it looks, we also want to say that we want to suggest some remedies. Like, what are some other things that can be done in this situation, and why we think that what this form of discipline is wrong in 2025, and there should be other measures and other things that are done as a form of discipline. Let's start with you, Enid May, and then we'll go Sissy and come down, and we'll end with Mr. Kellen as you close. And let me just say thank you to all of you for taking your time to come on this topic to discuss. I do have 2 counselors. Maybe in 2 weeks, they will be coming to look at it from the psychosocial aspect of it for children, the emotional side of it, so that we can continue this conversation. This, for me, is an awareness, but it's also a message to Bishop Simpson and anybody out there that this form of discipline is wrong and it should not happen. Thank you. Enid May, we'll close with you first.
Discipline is, I really don't know how you bring discipline into it, because again, just looking from my own background of how I was raised and how I raised my child and my siblings raised their children, this level of respect that whenever you did wrong and a conversation was had, you just the thought of disappointing our parents or my daughter, just the thought of her disappointing me again solved the problem. So it was a discussion of what happened, what went wrong, and what should be done and done better. So I've never been in a situation where somebody had to discipline me by taking away something. Nor have I been in that situation where I had to do it with my daughter, because there was a level of respect. And my daughter always say, a little sprinkle of fear, fear of mommy and mommy's wrath, that prevented you from doing bad things, quote unquote bad things. When I came to school in America to go to college, just the thought of failing and wasting my parents' hard-earned money, it was unfair. I mean, it wasn't something I would think about doing. So therefore, recess was never my favorite period. I never enjoyed recess. I wanted to get back in the school to late. I always been that. So again, and call it Western, call it whatever you want to call it, but we also have to teach people how to parent. None of us know how to parent. It's always a trial and error. But the more we read, the more we learn, the more we share with each other. I used to have a friend. I got a friend who, when her kids were small, she was always hitting their head. And one day I said to her, I said, look, you really embarrassing your children in front of the other kids here by constantly hitting on them and pushing their head. It's not good. I said, because what's going to happen is these kids are never going to see you as someone they can rely on, someone they can come to. Like my mother always used to say, when you're a child, you are my responsibility. And when you become an adult, if I like you, we become friends. But it's incumbent upon me as the parent to make you the kind of human being that I would like. So we need to do that. We need to have people understand, whether it's traditional way or whatever way you do it, the impact of our actions as parents have on our children.
Thank you, Sissy. Now I'm asking you to come up with in your end. Please send a message to
Master boy, master will meet at the Lofa Nimba border. And we will read the almost modern Kasaba passed by my Ellie. Now, having said that,
You just could not help
Couldn't help
yourself.
it.
You could not help yourself.
That opening was there. I had
You're
to
not
take
gonna
it.
get far today, oh.
I
Yeah, no, I
know.
said no force today. My internet brother, she said, reset at your best period. When she said that, she knows she's going deep with something. But look, let me say something on a serious note. All joke aside, I said today was no force day because it's all about education today. Look, my belief is that schools, specifically K-12 buildings, should be moral sanctuaries. Moral sanctuaries, safe places for our kids. Educators. There is a reason in America we are mandated reporters.
Mm-hmm.
There is a reason when somebody, look, if I'm crossing the street and see one old lady crossing the street, I ain't help her. The news reporter was a guy walking by, just walked past the old lady, didn't help. Nobody cares. But they say a teacher walked by and didn't help that old lady. It carries more weight. Because there's a moral expectation of us in society. That is why this hurts me more about the Leo Simpson situation and about the Sotema situation, about every other educator that abuse our kids, because we are supposed to be their safest spaces. I think there has to be more intentional PDs, learnings for our administrators in Liberia on understanding the power and authority they have. You have an authority to change somebody's life for good or for bad. You can make somebody to hate education, thereby affecting their future earnings potential. And you can create generational poverty just because of that. Because I didn't graduate high school. I'm not going to find a lot of quality. Chances are in education, my child might not graduate high school. Their child might not graduate high school. Generational poverty get created because of the action you take. Take your job seriously.
Mm-hmm.
Take your interaction with kids seriously. Look, and I'm saying this, I hope people don't think we've never, I teach in Brooklyn Center. If I sought out Brooklyn Center, there were many Waxeta, these white districts trying to pay me $10,000, $15,000 more. I took a pay cut to teach in Brooklyn Center where when most of our Liberian kids come, they go. Because I wanted to be on the front line. And I will tell you this, I was teaching math. You will know when Mr. Goya, when it's my class period, the principal said when you see the children running, and Mr. Goya class period. I don't even call kids to complain to their parents so their parents know when I call, the beating you're getting when you go home. Because just for me to show you that I disapprove of you was enough for kids. I'm talking 19-year-old, 18-year-old, 17-year-old students. Because it's just relationship.
Mm-hmm.
It's me just saying, man, I'm happy with you, but I don't even talk to me, man. I ain't doing it right now. It was enough to get kids to do my homework. I had kids doing calculus homework while they were on the bus going through to a homeless shelter because they were worried that Mr. Goya would not be happy the next day if they show up. Not worried that they're going to sleep in a homeless shelter, but that they were disappointing Mr. Goya. You don't have to abuse kids.
Mm-hmm.
You are entrusted with other people's gem. Treat it like a rare gem, like the rare earth mineral that the U.S. is following all around. Treat it that way. That's why, and I'll end with this. Every year when I was teaching, I went to school fully dressed in student attire or in African attire. And my kids would say, Mr. Goya, why all the other teachers don't dress, you dress like that? I said, well, when your parents go to the bank to deposit their money, they tell them you have to be well dressed so they can feel comfortable to deposit their money. You are worth more than the money your parents got. So I have to dress in a way that let them know how much value I add to you. So to Leo Simpson and the rest, I think when you know better, you do better. I think it's time for Leo to retire anyway. And I'm going to end this conversation by saying, those people that think that Leo's work has been doing a great job. My cousin Yeka Kolba went to Hewu. I'll just leave it right there.
Nominee, let's go to you because I'm not going to get in that other conversation. I am not going there.
No, CZ can't help himself.
He can't help himself.
The man made a public statement this morning saying that he won't be forced today. But it's not working. Look, I've been listening to everyone, and This has been really, really enlightening. And I've also been taking some notes. So as far as, well, let me first say what Mr. Simpson did to those kids was utterly wrong. If people don't take anything away from this conversation today, let that be established. But there are a few things that we need to recognize, and hopefully our brothers and sisters in Liberia can take these recommendations. So the first thing is we have to make laws. So we have to make laws so that when these type of behaviors pop up, you're part of me, my children in the background, they're doing.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
I'm gonna get you for boosted. You want to boost it?
Yeah. You see, if I apply corporal punishment, and people will say, "Oh, but see, man, who talking all that?"
Yeah, I see you doing it. Yeah.
Hey, Joey, yeah, keep the noise down back there. But let me get back. I apologize. But we have to establish laws, because when folks like Bishop Simpson, and not only him, but anybody who will take that route to
So let Mr. Kellen go and then
I can hear him. I mean, we just gotta.
This is actual research. The man gotta put research to action. We're watching him. The beginning keep knocking.
Yeah. Let me start over because I'm getting distracted here. So I apologize again. But no, laws are important, because you cannot take any action that will be outside of the law. Because if you go to the Haywood Mission School and try to take any actions against Mr. Simpson, of course he's going to hire a lawyer. And if you go to court and for some reason Mr. Simpson has a handbook that states clearly that he's allowed to take these actions on the case, and the rules in those handbook were actually sanctioned by the parents, then it becomes another conversation, right? So again, the Ministry of Education, the folks at the House of Representatives, they need to take some serious action to make sure that we're signing into law that acts of corporal punishment can be completely abolished from schools. Now, the second point I want to make is we have to challenge our own beliefs and culture.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the reason why I'm saying that is, look, we're not here to completely get rid of culture, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think the conversation we're having today, the conversation is meant to enhance our culture.
Yes.
All right. We want to get to a place where society is working for everyone, including our kids. The third point I want to make is school has to be, or our schools have to be, a haven for corrections. Meaning, when kids come to school and we see issues with the kids, we see issues because misbehavior is often a sign of other underlying conditions, either at home or some psychological problems. So we have to get to a point where we're elevating our children to a level where their psychological well-being becomes prime. All right. And then the last point I want to make is, look, we cannot go away from our culture. In our society, we've always used the palaver hut as a way of solving most of our problems. So we sit under the palaver hut, we discuss the issues that we have at the community level, at individual level, at the national level. We always use the palaver hut as a symbol of discussing our problems. So my recommendation is, and we'll use Haywood Mission School as a model school, right? So at the end of every school year, you can bring the students, the teachers, the parents together, and they can all have a conversation. Because in order to solve these problems, you first have to get the teacher's perspective. Maybe some of these teachers are overworked. if you have a teacher teaching 6 classes when he's supposed to be teaching 2, then that becomes a problem, right? So they all have to have a conversation. Students as well, they have to express, their own viewpoints concerning these things, and then the community can come together and develop a way forward. Now, lastly, I wrote down something here for my closing statement, and it goes like this: Let us not confuse discipline with domination. Let us raise Liberian children not with scars, but with structure, not through shame, but through shared values. Now, from now going forward, discipline must be a compass, meaning it should be something that gives direction, and it shouldn't be change that hold our children back from developing into useful citizens. So, with that, Glennie, I want to say thank you for the opportunity. Thank you for the time. Thanks to all those who tune in to listen to this conversation. I hope that going forward, we can all use the knowledge and understanding that we've gathered to make our community, our individual spaces, and our nation a better place. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kellen.
Yeah. So there are a lot of research out there for non-corporal punishment by so many universities and so many organizations. I'll come back to that, but I want to make a very important highlighting what Anna may have said most of the time she spoke. My perception in the African setting, the one I grew up in, our perception of kids is that they are young, they are immature, they don't know what they're doing. That mindset needs to be reevaluated. I have a 3-year-old, and I keep mentioning 3 because 3 is a very young age. When something happened and he picked a choice, I gave him the space to think and to tell me why. There got to be a reasoning for why people are making certain choice. He's 3, but he's a human being. He's part of this world. And my responsibility as a father is to groom him into a global citizen that he's able to thrive in any society. Okay? I work in a middle school, 12 to 14 years old. In the education system, that is one of the most difficult places to work. Zizi Goya knows, middle school. Young people just trying to figure out who they are in the world. Okay? So they will make choices. They are trying different things. You invite them, there's dignity in the conversation. Why you made this choice. You want their logic into why. Believe it or not, when you work in schools, my school has 2,000 kids, 2,000 different personalities come to school every single day, different values. I don't get to pick who come to school. My role as an educator is to provide care for everybody. I have a student who used a lot of profanity. That is his family background. No sifter, no filter, everything coming in the mind goes, right? The school, we don't have that. And so I need to tell him, you can know these words. However, you need to know the spaces to use them. If I'm just using corporal punishment, if that was a thing, which is not, or if that was a thing, that kid is not learning. He's not learning. So kids need time to reflect and think how their action is impacting them and the people around them. Right? You can get time out. When my little guy make a choice, I take free time away. I take iPad, teach anything away. Now, you don't take food away because food is on people's body. Like you cannot take food away anybody. You can't tell a person that do this because no. That is flat out wrong. That is against inhumane. Okay? Even corporal punishment, there is a limitation to it. You can't use object. You can't hit people in the head. You can't use closed fist. Like there, I think you in Minnesota, if I'm not mistaken, Zigo, I think you should only spank the kid on the butt. That's about it. You anything more than that, it is going to be labeled as abuse, and you will get CPS at the door to talk to you about your child. So I am in no support of what happened or what's happening in here or in a school in Liberia or in the world that are cutting kids' hair, that is taking away people dignity, that taking away their identity. You know, we got to find other ways to understand why young people are making these choices. And so I don't even know what to do. If a kid show up to school in a haircut, that's how they want to show up. I don't think there should be a policy on hairstyle, because that's how people identify, through the hair. Now, if the kids are making other choices in school, that's when you give them a chance to understand what led to the choice. Some kids come from family where I got to fight for myself. I got to defend myself. So even on playground, when I'm supervising recess and there's fights, I'm like, what happened? He said this, she said this, he hit me, he hit me. And I'm like, okay, that may be your family value, but that's not a value we hold here in school. We got adults everywhere. It's okay to tell somebody, and we can find remedy to this situation, we can solve it. Because at the end of the day, we want Liberian kids to leave Liberia, go other places, and be able to thrive, and be fiery, and be passionate. You know, we don't want kids leaving with trauma. Like that picture is going to be in there forever. That kid in that picture, I don't know what's going to happen to him or her. I don't even know the genetic kid. This is why the internet is powerful, but sometimes can be damaging. Because once something get up there, it can be picked up 10, 20, 30 years from now. And it can impact that kid forever. He can be bullied. You know, so Liberian educators, parents, there are so many research out there for non-corporal punishment. You know, you can take away privileges, right? Again, food is not a privilege. You can't take away food. You can give choice. You can give your child alternate ways to think about how they could have solved the problem that made them to choose an action that maybe was not the best choice. You know, and so that's where I want to leave it. Again, Glennie, thank you for this space, the rest of the panelists. You know, I can just see the passion in all of us. The question is, what do we do from here? Because oftentimes we come on this platform, we talk. How can we partner up? How can we really be involved in education in Liberia? How can Ministry of Education really leverage and really provide the care that Liberian kids need to be educated? You know, and Glenn, another thing you and I talked about, we're going to look at in the future, because I had that experience. K-12 education, evening school is not appropriate. That needs to be stopped in Liberia. Maybe that's a conversation we can talk about another time. But you know, that's where I want to stop.
So thank you everybody. Thank you to all of our panelists who joined us today. We've gone over almost 2 hours. I want to say thank you on this Saturday, taking Zizi away from all of his postings, and Nomini away from his basketball practice, and Enid May away from Mr. King, and Mr. Kellen. Thank you for joining us. Whenever we have a topic, we have the resources, we have the people we can reach out to come and bring it to the forefront. To Bishop Simpson, we understand that you're a responsible man, you're reputable, you're someone that people have respect for. We hope that you will find this discussion as meaningful, that it will cause you to change your practices. This is the intent of the discussion, that we don't want kids to continue to be punished for something, but we want to find other avenues. It could also mean that parents are forming a PTA, Parents Teacher Association, being a part of their children's life in school, being a part of those meetings, not just leaving the discipline to Bishop Simpson, because ultimately you are responsible for disciplining your children. Thank you, everyone. Looking forward to another discussion. The next one we're trying to talk about is illegitimate versus legitimate, looking at the Samuel Kayando story. Look out for this. It's going to come out. We're going to come and talk about it because we want to balance it out. So that will be the next panel discussion. I don't know what time, but you'll see some of these faces here. We're going to come from the legitimate side, the illegitimate side, looking at the wife and looking at the side chick. Thank you, everybody, for watching, and we'll see you all next time. Thank you, everybody.
The 10,000 children.
All righty.
Don't blame us. Solomon help us out. Don't blame us.
Goodbye.